What's up, my peeps? I've really hurt my freaking knee, like you cannot believe. I don't know what I've done with it. But I've got myself a glass of Fanta here because this is my day off. Believe it or not, this is my day off, even though I'm making videos and doing some work stuffs. I'm doing it for your benefit as well as my own benefit. So, it's all good. I'm just going to put you on top of the microphone here. Okay. It's going to make it a little easier for you to kind of be more engaged with me in this video. So this is part 5. What are we doing in part 5? In part 5, we are talking about my own personal experience. So back in 2022, in June, July, I lost my job. From having a job in 2020 to losing my job in 2022. I lost my job because, if you are familiar with part 4, we talked about what your mental state says and what your attention says to the universe. And the universe was hearing, get me out of here. Get me out of this god-awful place. Okay. Unfortunately, it was a very corrupt place and a very harsh conditioned place. I went many months without payments. I went months where they paid me only bits and pieces. They expected me to do awful things, drive around without having the money for it, things like that. And my mind was constantly, get me out of here, get me out of here, get me out of here. Now, the universe heard me. It saw where my attention went, and it said, okay, Josh, we hear you now. Poof, it's gone. And I made the mistake of not preparing myself for my next phase. I made the mistake of quitting abruptly the old phase without making contingency for a new phase or foundation for a new phase for myself. Okay. So I was in drones and I didn't want to be in drones anymore. But I was in drones and I was there for a long time. And I worked on things for a long time, but I also made a lot of mistakes in that time. I learned a lot of things. And when the time came, I had to learn one more big lesson, and that's this one that I'm giving away now. It's that if you're going to transition into having a job, in fact, it doesn't even matter. Essentially, what I'm going to say is, if you want to transition into your next phase of life, you have to set the foundations for it. The universe isn't going to respond to you unless you set those foundations. That's the important part, is building roots. You can think of it literally as planting seeds so that those seeds can grow, except that it's you and your seeds are your skills, okay? And you want your skills to grow and money as well to grow, okay? So that was my first mistake. I didn't make contingency for my next phase of life. I just decided that I just wanted this phase of life to end. And it did end. And then I went 3 months without having a job. I had 3 months of not eating properly. I was using newspaper for toilet paper. Just hard things, okay? Not having money, things like that. Freaking out, having to look after animals, giving my food away to my animals because I was worried about them because they weren't even eating properly. Meanwhile, I wasn't even eating properly. It was a mess. And that's why I then needed to get help from someone who I didn't think I was going to need help anymore. She came back into my life, my mentor, my old mentor now. She came back into my life and she basically helped me set up these foundations. So she was a great teacher because she didn't just give me answers. She gave me tools, which I would then have to do those, and the answers would come from the universe or the angels or wherever they came from at those times. And sorry, I keep wanting to swallow, but then it just doesn't go down. Okay, so she gave me some tools. And with those tools, I'll tell you these tools now. And I'll then tell you the skills I learned and the things I learned along the way to get me to actually having a job, and then to get me all the way to this point now, which we'll talk about, okay? Which is where you've then had the job and you now want to transition to that ultimate next level. So her tools were pretty simple. It's what I gave you in fact, her tools were what I gave you in the first video. Routine revamping, okay? Stop sleeping in until 10 o'clock. Stop eating breakfast at 11 in the morning, because that's basically lunch. Stop going to sleep at 2 or 3 in the morning. Stop. And then there's other things you can do which assist, like you can stop. I wouldn't say stop at this point in time. I wouldn't say you have to stop these things like masturbation, pornography, junk food, but it's very, very beneficial to slow them down. You don't want to be doing anything prolifically. You want to be balancing yourself out. Now, that's the key word there. The key trick is to try and find a balance. Now, if you've been doing this thing for a while, like I had then been doing it for about 2 months, I'd say before I lost my job, I was doing it for 2 months where I was out of balance. And then I did another 5 months of being out of balance, right? I mean, another 3 months of being out of balance. Because I then lost my job and I was like, well, now I've got nothing else to do. What am I going to do with my time? Okay, just out of balance, out of balance. And when she came to me, she said, cool, we need to rebalance you. So I said, okay, cool. Does that mean finding a level ground? She said, no, it means you've done this for a whole bunch of time. You now need to do this. You need to hunker down. You need to be rigid, okay? And that's where rigidity comes in, my friends, is when you've been rigid in one way, in other words, not rigid at all, you then need to balance it out by being very rigid. So she gave me 2 weeks. She said, in 2 weeks' time, if you do this, you're going to have a job. And this is what she gave me. First one, set yourself routines, okay? Almost like deadlines. And in this case, you want to be rigid. Or in my case, at least, it was to be rigid because I had been so out of balance. So I now needed to bring myself really hunkered down and bring myself down. Anchor myself back onto the ground. And how did I do that? Like I said in part 4, but I'll go into detail here. So what I did was I stopped coffee for this time. I stopped coffee and I stopped all those other things. Like I wasn't really masturbating. I wasn't looking at porn. I wasn't really eating junk food or anything like that. I literally cut out as much of that as I possibly could. As much impulsive action or body action as I possibly could. And this includes when my body needed rest, I wouldn't even let it have the time to rest because it needed to learn that rest time comes at night. So that's the whole point, is you throw yourself out of whack and you're then thinking, well, how do I get myself back into shape? And you think, well, I can't be so hard on myself. No, you absolutely need to be hard on yourself. And I mean this in the most loving way possible. You need to sit yourself down and you need to say, okay, I know that I've taught myself that I don't rest at night. Now I need to teach myself that I need to rest that night. How do I do that? I don't allow myself to rest in the day, okay? So that's what you do. So if my day looked like this, I would wake up at 6 o'clock. If I really needed the extra rest, it would be until 7. But I would not let myself get no time after 7 was I in bed. From 7, even if I was dead tired, I would be up, okay? Then from there, no coffee. I used to drink coffee, and then when this all fell apart, I decided no coffee. Okay, so then that's around there, and then breakfast I'd have at about 8 o'clock. But between 8 and 9 was my breakfast time, and it would have to be filled with protein. There was no other way, no other exceptions, but a protein-filled breakfast. And I'd say around 8 o'clock. Okay, remember, the more rigid you can be, the better. Just in this little situation that you've caused for yourself. Okay. So 8 o'clock, I would have my protein-filled breakfast. 9 o'clock, 8 until 9, I would then do just my morning routine. So you can decide whether you want to make your bed or diligently brush your teeth, or maybe you want to take a 5-minute shower. But remember, you got to keep it nice and simple. You don't want to spend 10 minutes in the shower. You don't want to be rewarding yourself. Not in this phase of life. You've done too much rewarding. You've abused your rewarding. Okay, you've abused your rewards. Sleeping in, eating junk food, masturbating, doing whatever else nonsense you've done, maybe playing games for your whole day. You've abused your rewards. You now need to hunker down. So nothing nice, okay? I know it sounds cruel and unusual, but that's the way it is. Nothing nice for a little bit. You just want to be as strict on yourself as you possibly can be, just temporarily, okay? Like I said, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. For some people, depending how messed up you are, it's going to be a hard time. It's going to be 3 months, but you don't need to be super duper strict on yourself in that case. You just need to start developing proper balance for yourself. Okay, strict for the first 3 weeks and then start balancing out. All right, so breakfast at 9, breakfast at 8. Then I would do my routines up until 9, and then I would start at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock, I would start being busy. Now, you guys can choose. Even if you want to, you can go and research root chakra. Okay, see what activities will activate your root chakra. But that's the goal there. From 9 all the way up until 4. 9 until 4, I would be activating my root chakra. Sometimes 5, because you want to aim for the 8 hours just because that's the standard practice in society. But I also think society's fucked up a little bit, and you don't need to do the whole 8 hours. 7 hours is plenty, as long as you're not taking a whole big rest in amongst it all. So 9 to 4, but if you do want a bigger rest, half-hour rest, then 9 to 5, and you're going to spend that time doing your root chakra thing. So this is what I did. I had the house to myself. Luckily, I still had a place to live because my mom was out in Cape Town. So I just came here. And I decided that I was going to do a whole spring cleaning. Okay, so I started by doing the step 1. I'm going to do the kitchen. And then you dive deeper. Okay, cool. This time to this time, I want to do that part of the kitchen. This time to this time, that part of the kitchen. Okay, and then get it done. And that was my root chakra cleaning. Yeah, it is. It's root chakra cleaning, because you're removing all the debris from your root chakra and you're allowing it to build new things. Okay. Other good root chakra things would be charity work. Is the first one that came to mind, which it actually wasn't. It was gardening, but charity was the one that came straight out. So charity work would be a huge beneficial one for yourself. If you can get to a charity and work there from 9 until 4, then do that. But if you can't do that, cleaning your house is a good one. Gardening is a really good one as well. I would say those 3. Okay, don't try and overcomplicate your life right now. Focus on those 3 things. See if you can do any of that. And your charity work, guys, if you're like, well, I don't have any charity. Dudes, if you go to a bar and you say, hey, man, do you mind if I just come here and just clean for a couple weeks? Completely free, just because I need to do it for myself. The dude, of course, is not going to chase you away, okay? So there's ways that you can find out what you need to do for your root chakra. That's how. Just think out of the box if you really need to think out of the box. Okay? Other things are exercise and stuff like that. But no, I would say try and keep it more pragmatic. Try and keep it more like a job description. You know, cleaning your house. I mean, you pay people, don't you, to clean your house. Gardening, you pay people to garden. So I think you get what I'm hinting at. Then 9 to 4. And in that time, I would have maybe 1 10-minute break. If I really needed it, I would maybe have 2 10-minute breaks, just scattered around the day, but usually I'd have one around 12 o'clock, okay? Then at 4/5, whenever I felt I needed to be done, I would then be done, and I would go and sit, maybe for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And if I had thoughts bubble up, I wouldn't sit anymore. I would go and I would journal, okay? I would journal out all of my thoughts. No reward for the hard day's work. Okay, the reward is the rest at the end. You need to allow yourself to realize that. You need to allow your mind to kind of assess that as being the situation. But I would journal, because you're going to have a lot of hard thoughts while you're being so hard on yourself. Okay, your body and your inner child is going to be screaming at you, but you've just abused. You've just made your inner child overzealous by abusing your rewards. So now you need to calm your inner child down, and your inner child is going to throw tantrums. That's where the journaling comes in. So I would then journal as much as I possibly could in the evenings. I would journal. Sometimes I would go through a book. I'm not kidding you. Okay, journal. I don't care if you're a man, a woman, if you're non-binary. I don't care who or what you are. Journaling is it's an incredible tool that is very underused in this day and age. Okay. But I don't think I need to talk about the power of journaling. I think a lot of people actually do know that on one level or another. Because we all go through hard times, so we need to do something. We all know, we all have been through a time like that, and we all know that journaling helps us in that element. Okay. And this is a hard time right now, isn't it? It's a very hard time, I understand. So journal, get it out, okay? Then at 6 o'clock, I would have my dinner. 6 o'clock, no exceptions. Now, this was always an issue because load shedding was always a shit show. My schedule was always hard to maintain the rigidity because South African life just fucking sucks. It fucking sucks balls here. And I know, guys, that most of you watching this are going to be South African because I know South African economy is one of the toughest in the whole freaking world. I know that. And I also know that most of the people that are reaching out to me spiritually are the people that have suffered similar circumstances to me. And of course, I'm in South Africa, so it only makes sense. Okay, so you're going to do this as best you can, but prepare yourself. That's the whole point, is if you really maintain rigidity, you're going to prepare yourself for the load shedding. You're going to prepare yourself for all of this stuff, okay? I literally built a fireplace, all right? Do what you need to do to make things work. That's what you do. That's the whole point. You're showing yourself that you can make things work, okay? If you think you can't, of course you can, okay? Even if you make a bread sandwich, bread, that's a meal. And I know it sucks, but sometimes even that is a delicacy. For some of us who have gone through really hard times, bread, oh man, a slice of bread can be very nice, okay? So now you have 3. You're like, oh my God. Okay, I understand. Do what you need to do to survive. Right? And do what you need to do to survive in as rigid a structure as possible for 2 to 3 weeks. Right? Then after that, 6 o'clock, I'd have my dinner. 7 o'clock, I would go and shower, do my amenities, do whatever else I needed to do. 8 o'clock, I would be in bed. And 8 o'clock to 8:30, I would read. So, and then what I would do, normally, sometimes I would read until 9, but normally I'd read until 8:30, stop at 8:30. And then I would give myself from 8:30 to 9 o'clock. That was my thinking time. So that was the time when all of my demons could come out. That was the time when all of my demons could show face, when my inner child could scream at me and yell at me and tell me, what the hell am I doing, treating myself this way? That's when I could deal with all of that stuff. And I think a lot of people miss this part. A lot of people think that you shouldn't be thinking at all. I think that depending on your circumstance and depending on who you are as a person, this is a very subjective opinion. For me, I realized that if I just try and go to sleep, it's not going to work, okay? Now, it does depend. If you're one of those who needs to read to cut all your thoughts out, then you might want to do this before you read, half an hour before you read, just think, and then half an hour of reading. And if your demons come back after that, then you just keep reading, okay? Maybe until 10 o'clock. But whatever. But this is just me telling what I did, okay? So I would do that. I would then have half an hour for my demons to come out so that I can play with them a little bit and see what they're screaming at me about and why they're making me feel bad. Then from 9 o'clock, I would just be lights out, okay? Basically like I'm asleep. And it doesn't mean I was asleep. Sometimes it would mean that I would still be dealing with my demons up until 3 in the morning, up until 4 in the morning, then 5 o'clock comes, and then I'm asleep, and then at 6 o'clock, and I'm like, well, shit, I got 1 hour, I need to wake up and do a whole 9-hour day of work, and you do it. You don't give yourself any exceptions, okay? The exceptions you get are your Saturdays. Saturdays are the days where you can sleep in a little bit. Saturdays are the days where you can go to bed a little bit later. Saturdays are the days where you can show your inner child that you do still care about yourself and you do still care about your inner child and you do still want to reward them from time to time, but you can't do it nonchalantly. You want to have your balance. So you did a bunch of this, you needed to do this for a full week, and then over your Saturday, you can do a little bit of that, okay? Then in the next week, you do this again, okay? Get it out of the way, gut it out. And then on your Saturday, you can have a little bit more, okay? A little bit more relaxed. And then Sundays, depending on who you are and what you want to do with your Sundays, I would say for you in this sort of mental state, Sundays, the best thing you would do is to cut out all electronics, wander your garden, wander your house, maybe clean a little bit, okay? More root chakra work is a very good thing. Clean your home, journaling a lot, okay? My Sundays would be filled with journals. My Sundays would be filled with thinking. But not in a negative standpoint. So when negative thoughts were pounding my brain, that's when I would go to my journal. That's when I would jump in the pool. That's when I would have a bath. And you would lie in the bath for an hour. Don't run a bath if you're going to be in the bath for 10 minutes. Okay. So you need to obviously judge your time like that, but that's what my Sundays were. My Sundays were kind of my healing days. You could call them that. So my Mondays through Fridays were my busy days. My Saturdays were my kind of like my off days, but still in a diligent capacity. And then my Sundays were my healing days. So if I did need to sleep in a couple of hours more on Sundays, I would do that. If I did need to, but not past 10. Okay, not past 10. Not while you're in this phase of life. Not past 10 o'clock. And going to bed, not past 11 o'clock. Not past 11 o'clock. Okay, trust me on this one. Even if you are a different sign to me, even if you're a completely different person to me, if you're in that situation that I was in, I'm telling you what is most probably going to help you out. Okay. Obviously, there might be one or two exceptions, but don't see yourself as the exception until you've tried it and it hasn't worked. And try it. You got to really try it in order for it to work. Okay. So that's what I would do. And my mentor then said, okay, 2 weeks. And nope, 1 week. Literally the Friday, or it might have even been the Thursday of that first week, I was phoned up from someone from my old work. She had moved to a new place and she said, hey man, I need an instructor. Can you get here ASAP? I was like, the universe just dumbfounds me sometimes. And that's what happened. So this is me telling you what I did. And if you want to see how they all played in, number one, phase one, routine revamping, that's your structure. Okay. You need to realize what is your structure. How are you imbalancing yourself? How are you rewarding yourself without doing the work? Okay. Number two is then you're facing your demons. We talked about it. We said it was financial self-analysis, but actually it will stem into many things, including how you've treated yourself and how you're treating yourself financially, or how you think you're living in lack, or how you think that others are living in abundance and you've been done poorly. Those are all your thoughts. How would I deal with that? Journaling. Okay, the journaling was the key there. And also that half-an-hour session of dealing with those demons. That's how phase two played out for me. Then you have phase three. Phase three was, I don't even remember what phase three was about. Oh, that's right. It was about my skills, looking at my skills. What skills do I have that I could move in? So I had the drones, and I knew I had the drones. So I was pretty certain that that was going to be what comes up, and it was exactly what came up. But if you're still struggling with that one, that's when you might want to move into phase four. Phase four, which is then looking at your skills development. Phase four is if you're not getting a job with your first three phases, or if you've gotten a job but you now want to move into the next transition of your life, then phase four comes into play, looking at new skills to learn or old skills to develop further to get something better for yourself. That's what you're looking at in phase four. And then phase five is self-reflection or past reflection. So phase five is now when you look at everything that you've gone through and you see all the spiritual teachings and spiritual lessons that you've gotten from that, which is exactly what I'm doing now with you guys, I'm imparting this information from me unto thus, or whatever, I don't know. There was some phase that popped in my head, but it's gone now. But that is what I'm doing here, is with my phase five. I'm allowing all of those past phases to settle, saying thank you that I've had this transition, because I'm now in another pivotal point in my life where I'm not too sure what the next phase is. I'm currently in a void state, which is, it's not a mini void like back then where I knew I was going to just get a job. This is now where I'm trying to decide what I want for the next 3 to 5 years of my life, next years of my life. So that's what I call a big void, is when you're making an ultimate life transition. Okay, so that's that. I hope this video helped, peeps. If you want to know what these other phases are, if you want to get yourself a job, if you want to start improving yourself as a human being, or if you feel like you're lost and you don't really know what's going on, but you definitely want to find a sense of purpose, start at part 1. There's 5 parts of this series. Start at part 1, phase 1, routine revamping, and work your way up. Okay, cool guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.